You're Locked On Wild. Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Let's get things rolling here. And first and foremost, I got to figure out, I think it was this one. Let's do this. I got to figure out how I did that score bug last time. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. And there. That's a little easier to read than previous iterations that we've done here. So, yeah, first and foremost, big story. Welcome in to Ryan Hartman back in the top six, because why not at this point? Like, and also Marcus Johansson. So what did we end up with here? So Johansson gets the second wing spot, and then Hartman, Huznadinov, and Goudreau. Beckman is out. Beckman is out of the lineup. Fully out. Completely out. Let's get ready to just it's Jesper time. Chicago's backup goalie. So it's funny because, this has been a big sticking point over the last few seasons is Chicago's goalie situation this year has actually been pretty good, which is why it's weird that Connor Bedard is, oh my God, my mentions on Twitter are just a disaster. Oh boy. I need to really just stop tweeting things because just yikes. Okay. Yeah, I don't get why Beckman, I don't know. So here are the things that I'm going to be watching today is Jesper, of course, and then just all the usual suspects. Huznadinov, Faber, Rossi. See what Boldy's got today. Let's just see what all those guys have. Let's see what all that future building has for this team, because you're not fighting for a playoff spot. That ship has sailed. So at this point, it's all about just, what do you have coming up? What do you have coming up in the pipeline? What are you building towards? What is your future? Okay, Boldy with a shot right up close. I have a considerable delay, so I'm just going to forewarn everybody, those that did not join our last live stream during the Sweden games. I've got a delay because I'm watching on the internet, and so I'm going to be reacting to a lot of stuff delayed compared to what we see. But who do we all have here so far today? We got Ron, we got Mike, aka Alaskan Wampa, we got Dougie, we got Diane, Charisse is here. Whole gang is here for another watch party. Amanda just joining us. Whole gang is here joining in for yet another one of these watch parties. My goal next season is, and like, let me just kind of paint the picture here, is it's way easier to do these for road games than it is for home games, because my goal next year is going to be at probably at the low end. I'm gonna have to go back and look at how many games we got to at the X this year. I think it was about 20. I think it was roughly 50% of the home games, I think. Next year, the goal is to get to between 30 and 41. And so then the road games are where these watch parties come in. And my goal is to, at minimum, do one a month. So that's what I'm hoping for next year. With the option to do more of them throughout the season too. Like, I'm just gonna set the bar. I'm gonna set the bar for two or for one a month, and try to exceed that. Try to exceed those expectations. Chicago is just something else. Tyler's with us. What's happening, Tyler? Hartman, who's Nadinov out there right now? Oh yeah, I just got to Abdomen Gate. Good play by Hartman to force a turnover. Shot on net, blocked. Goudreau tried to tip it in. He's definitely not suited for the net front guy role. Zach Bogosian is back. And again, like we talked about in the noon show, that's why, like, the size thing is why Zach Bogosian got retained, because he does bring the size. So, like, again, of the issues too, it's just Bogosian's not at the, like, Goudreau and Johansson are at the top of the list. Then you can go to the three extensions that have protections, and then probably Bogosian after that. I don't know. They're all not great. Like, it's just more of the same. Like, we've been talking about this stuff since December. Yeah, it's because, where'd it go? The reason Kaprizov is already getting double shifted is because the team is still not technically mathematically out of it. And so it's still win at all costs. So I'm just reading the Discord, which, by the way, I will, in the event that anybody here has not yet, I'm going to do this. If anybody wants to join the Discord server, right there. It's a lot of fun. We're growing it. That's going to be a fun spot, especially this off season. But it's going to be, that's a fun complement to what we are all building, obviously, through YouTube. Just trying to add more pieces to the puzzle as this community grows. And that's what it is. It's not a show. It's a community. That's the end game. That's the end goal here. You know, this is kind of a this could potentially be part of it too, is just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall. But I don't know. We know what Kaprizov is at this point. Oh, just hideous turnover leading to a shot, but thankfully Chicago missed the net. That's, yeah. Just a mess. Key stat, Kaprizov bringing it every night. We never doubted that. He always does. The problem is that there are few who also do. There needs to just be a lot more. There need to be many more other players who just continually fight and battle and do the thing as well. Another turnover. Shot high up over the net and into the netting. I think Kuznetsov just had that one taken away from him by, is that Athanasiou? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the Soda Pod has joined right in. It's like the Royal Rumble at WrestleMania. Like, you just hearing everybody's entrance music and various people just walk on out to join in on the festivities. All right. Goudreau, yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, John, I just got to what you were talking about. Yeah, I'm on a considerable delay here. All right, here comes Chicago off the boards, and they'll dump it in. Oh, this is gonna be the dump off. John Merrill backs it up. Goes to Chisholm. I really like. It's gonna be report card season's gonna be fun to dive in and just really critically analyze what we've seen so far this season, because there's going to be a lot of Fs. But Declan Chisholm will not be one of them. Brock Faber will not be one of them. Actually, as far as anybody in Chicago is concerned, he definitely would be an F. But we don't care about people in Chicago's opinions on anything. Sharp angle shots. Jesper with a nice kick to the left. Another shot. Midsection save. Drops it out of the glove. Little shimmy shake from Jesper. Love that. I think we're already seeing, and I don't want to get super hot takey already. Like, we just started. I think we're already seeing here on these first couple of shots that Jesper is taking in this game that he just is way more comfortable. Like, he, on all of them, just stayed home. All of the shots so far that Chicago has had, he just has stayed home and has stayed in position. There haven't been any breakdowns. Then again, it is Chicago, but he's maintaining his position so far, which is very good. Ooh. Interesting note in our Discord. The number of games it took Kirill to get to the various 10-goal plateaus. From goal 1 to 10 was 30 games. 11 to 20 was 12. 21 to 30 was 12. 31 to 39, 13. Today is the 14th game. So if he scores today, that'll be 14 games. And those middle chunks were also had a hat trick in there as well. If Hines won't play youth in a game like this, he is not a man for the rebuild with the prospects. You're not wrong, John, but this franchise is not going to rebuild. Like, this is going to be a quick regroup, some sort of a trade, to get them closer to the playoffs next year. That's like, this is a quick regroup to try to make the playoffs, as if this team is one player short of making a deep run, which we all agree they are not. This franchise is not one player away from being a legit contender. Now, they, like, again, and I feel like I'm probably getting sucked way too in to the negative as this season unfolds. It's not like the cupboard is completely bare. They obviously have really good players at the NHL level right now. They've got good prospects that are in the system. But, like, it's going to need to be a combination of both. And we just need to, like, there just needs to be an admission by the front office that this team isn't simply one, like, plug in one piece and they're good to go. There needs to be some more work done, but playoffs is the only goal. And so to make the playoffs, like, there will be some sort of move done to win now. You gonna let Rossi take this face off, or face off win for Rossi? Kaprizov to Faber. Faber with a dump pass off the board, stolen away by Chicago. Picked back up by Rossi. Kaprizov into the offensive zone. Poked away. Wild regroup. And fling it back along the boards. I agree, but it's Bill Guerin we're talking about. Like, this is the crux of the issue, is that if between him and Craig Leopold, the ultimate goal for this team is to make the playoffs, then all the moves that they do are going to be to meet that goal. If you were to say, hey, let's focus our attention on winning a Stanley Cup, then you could, if Craig Leopold was willing, and if Bill Guerin was willing to have a conversation and to sit down and just talk and just say, hey, if our goal ultimately is winning the Stanley Cup, it's going to take us a few years to get there. We have to be really invested in doing what is necessary to get there, which is to get a lot of this, a lot of the mistakes off this roster, and, like, really building from within, and then using free agency and trades to help supplant the roster. Like, until they are committed to, like, acknowledging that this isn't just, like, that this team isn't just one player away, this is just going to continue to happen. And so all this stuff is well and good. Like, cut Johansson, cut Goudreau, trade Foligno, trade Hartman. All that stuff is well and good, but unless the general manager himself is willing to make those moves, it's not going to happen. I'm highly in favor of that. Like, I'm highly in favor of just simply doing what is necessary and getting rid of these guys, but the GM and the owner have to be too. They have to be willing to roll their sleeves up, get a little dirty, and make some moves that benefit this team long term. But that doesn't put butts in the seats. And until they're willing to do that, like we're just caught in a time loop. Until those acknowledgments are made, shot by Kaprizov off the glove of the Blackhawks goalie, Faber far side. Tried to tip it to Kaprizov. He'll work it back along the boards to Zuccarello. If Leopold would accept the need for rebuilds, I'm sure BG would say yes. I think if there could be some unison from the top down, I think because look, like all this stuff, I know we have chastised Bill Guerin for the extensions for some of these signings. He's made some really shrewd, good trades. And since Judd Brackett took over the handling the draft side of things, like that tandem has done some good things. We need to acknowledge that. As much as we get annoyed with where things are at right now, he's made some good moves. Like, I think back to being able to turn Greg Pattern into Ian Cole, a third pairing defenseman that came in with Carson Soucy. Looks like Wild are getting their first power play here. So we'll see what the call is, but like Greg Pattern was a player on the Wild roster, and Bill Guerin turned him into Ian Cole, who was a damn good third pairing defenseman. He traded Capo Kakinen when it was pretty clear that Capo was not going to be a number one guy. Like he flipped him and turned him into Jake Middleton, who's been a solid defenseman since he came here. Like, he's made some good decisions, but he also has some that have been incredibly head-scratching and frustrating. So there's been good, but there has also been a lot of not. All right. Let's see if we get to the point where I actually see what this power play is. Oh, yeah, that must be it right there behind the net. And now my screen's frozen. Oh, boy. I guess we'll reload it. Right into a commercial break while the game's going on. I too am of the belief that Marcus Johansson needs 25 minutes a night for him to turn into a 50 goal per season. No, Diane is kidding, of course. I don't get it. And I know I'm not alone. None of the audience gets it. None of the other people that cover this team get it. Like, you just are giving a guy top 6 minutes and he is doing nothing with them. Nothing at all. They could do so much better. They could do so much better than what is currently being tossed out there. How about Brock Faber at 45 points, by the way, and 25 minutes per night on the ice? His defensive numbers have certainly taken a hit over these last handful of games, but like the overall product, again, as a rookie, is still so strong. Like it's so good, and it leaves such a great foundation to build off of. Same with Rossi. Oh, cool. We're doing the just pass an insane amount again on this power play without. So we got one shot on goal, and we're about halfway through it. Let's see how many we end with. Oh, little trouble on the zone entry. Shorthanded attempt by Chicago that they pushed to the left. Yuck. All right, you got a minute left, and the shots are even at 1-1. Eriksson Ek through traffic, tips it back to Zuccarello. Zuccarello's going to pass 100%. Oh my God, do something. Okay, so he did pass. Eriksson Ek far side. Back out to the top. Boldy eludes pressure. Back to Eriksson Ek from the slot. Back to Zuccarello. Back to Eriksson Ek. So that's 2 shots. 30 seconds remain. Home team has 2. Road team has 1 on this power play. What was that? A chip shot? And so no shot. So still two shots to 1. Just taking forever. And then what happens is, so they're using all this time to try for these like perfect setups and perfect passes. And then the opportunities themselves are not great. And so you spent, 15 seconds trying to set up for a perfect opportunity. What's the difference if you try for 2 or 3 shot attempts in that same amount of time, as opposed to setting up for one perfect one if you're going to miss anyway? Finishing is just a disastrous problem for this team that needs to be majorly addressed in the offseason. Chisholm lets it fly from the top. I think that was after the power play. I think that was after the power play expired. So 2 shots to 1. Chicago had 1 shot on that penalty or that power play to 2 for the Wild. Always been a fan of Foligno, but highly doubt he finishes his 4 years. Back-to-back surgery on the same part of his beat-up corpse of a frame. But hey, trade protection, though. Got to give that trade protection out anytime you can, because you just don't get the opportunity to give out trade protection more than once. So you got to take the opportunity to do so. Do we want some sort of a mild fun challenge to go along with what we are currently watching? This is raspberry chipotle salsa. I had some on Friday night. It is very hot. I'm thinking I've got some corn chips here. I think anytime I get frustrated by anything that I see here, I'm going to light my mouth on fire. It's not bad. Honestly, I'm a fan of spice, so it's not a huge thing, but I still do have to do the chip challenge because of John Merrill. So that's hopefully going to happen at some point here. At some point in the near future. All right, so frustrated by that power play first and foremost. Let's start with that. Ooh. Little heat. Not too bad, though. But the game is early. The day is young. Look at who's Nadinov step in to try to win a puck battle. Russo is just dead on. There just is a lack. There is a hilarious lack of players being willing to step into the corners. Forced pass by Goudreau to Hartman, who was completely covered, and there just was no chance that was going to be anything other than a turnover. And guess what? It was. I'm doing 2 chips for that one. That's mind-numbing, which is what I'm about to be. Can we use the body on the forecheck? This is another way that the lack of size kind of gets played out. Is a bunch of these guys are too small to forecheck, and the ones that are willing to, the guys that should be just do not do it. They don't step in, and it's a full one off season, and it's a full total systems failure from top to bottom. But hey, Jesper is 5 for 5 so far. The Wild are 0 for 12. Geez, Chisholm flying in after he dumps the puck in. He's the first one to go get it. I like that. I like seeing that. Chisholm being willing to shoot. He missed, but being willing to shoot it from outside, because if nobody's going to shoot it from the inner part of the zone, somebody's got to. I'm telling you guys, I really have enjoyed the Declan Chisholm experience so far. I hope that Bill Guerin isn't caveman-y enough to decide, well, he played really well for us, but we got to trade him. We got to include him in a package to trade him. I hope he sticks around, because his I think the simplest way that I can kind of distill what I like most about Declan Chisholm is he's just very quick in his decision making. He's just very decisive and very quick. Even when when he's at the top of the zone on the power play, when he's running things at the top, he's very quick in what he's doing, because he understands that the only way that a power play can be successful is to keep moving. You got to keep moving. You got to keep yourself moving. And it's a mostly passive unit at this point. They just anchor into particular spots and they just pass it around. They just pass it around and really can't be bothered to shoot. Is Kaprizov double shifting again? We've got twos all up and down the board in 2026. 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, 2 sixths. That's not by accident. So Bill Guerin is something is in the works. And it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being a young player plus one of those picks to get somebody that can help you now, and then you add in one of those contracts to offset the money. I'm pretty sure that's what we'll see in the offseason. And then I'm gonna hate it depending on who or what. Like if they go get Brady Tkachuk from the Ottawa Senators some crazy how, okay. I could be talked into that depending on what you're giving up in return, but it's going to be somebody who's a vet and somebody who's probably more on the slow side, and you don't need more of that. You don't need more of that with this mix. Ooh, nice little shot by Housie. It did go wide. Hartman picks up the loose puck, zips it across for Faber. Faber's shot blocked. Chicago picks it up. And we have our first period in the books. And it's 0-0, as we expected. Did I not say this morning that it would be a struggle? And it shouldn't be. What is Captain Tkachuk's contract? I wonder. Because now I'm just curious. It's very highly unlikely to happen. Like it's probably a 0% chance, but I'm just curious. 8.205 714. He's making $8,205,714. Yeah, he's too locked in. That's not going to happen. I would love it, but it's not going to happen. We are all in unison on what we saw there in the first. Terrible hockey. Ugh. Painful to watch. Pathetic. Very meh. Ready to bumble. What's up, Quadrum? Oh, I'm starting to overdo it with the salsa. But you guys got to eat. Okay, so let's just really look at this. Oh, Jay, here's the fire of choice. Raspberry chipotle. It's got a little sweet heat to it. And then, as Diane mentioned, also have the big waves rolling, flowing. Who is someone with size you'd love for the Wild to get and is a possibility? I'm going to start trying to dive into some potentials here because it has to be addressed. It has to be. And the way to do it would be to, develop it on your back end and then continue to cultivate talent on the front end of the roster. But what we're going to get is somebody that is brought in to try to play in the top 6, and they're not going to bring as much skill as they will size. So why don't I just, who would be another one? Again, this is a 0% chance at this point. You know who would be a real fun one to throw into the mix? Tage Thompson would be another on that same vein. Would be another type of player that could get you closer to where you need to be. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Unfortunately, no. They're at like a 0.01% chance to make the playoffs. Because basically, here's how this has to play out. You have to win out, and Vegas needs only 1 point. Vegas needs only 1 point to knock you out of the playoffs completely. If the Wilds, if this game heads to overtime somehow, the Los Angeles Kings have clinched a playoff spot, which leads you to be chasing the Vegas Golden Knights. And if they get one single point the rest of the season, it's over because you can't tie these teams. You have to exceed their points because of the amount of regulation wins, of which the Wild are last in the teams that are remaining at this point. So you have to exceed. You can get to 93 points at the maximum if you win the final 6 games of the season. Vegas is at 92 right now. So they just need 1. And you play Vegas again. And so if for some reason we go down that rabbit hole a little bit, you're going to play Vegas on the road and they're going to kill you. So it's not great. But once we get to the offseason, the healing can finally begin. Hopefully, maybe, possibly. Do you see us letting Rossi go in the offseason? He's got above and beyond, but is also one of the few players whom we have any see. And this is 100%. This is the reality of the situation. This is why Marco Rossi there have been rumblings, because he has no trade strings attached. And so you don't have to ask permission. Part of me kind of wonders too, and this is probably me being way too cynical. Part of me kind of wonders too if Bill Guerin is not comfortable having those conversations with those guys. Like, now that the protections have been given, not comfortable going to select players to try to get them to waive. You shouldn't be looking to deal a player like Marco Rossi, who is finally finding his footing and is one of the few guys on the team that works hard consistently. But the reality of the situation is he's the only one that really has value that you would even be willing to move. You're not moving Eriksson Ek. You're not moving Matt Boldy. You're not moving Kirill Kaprizov. You're not moving the move clause people. By process of Bill Guerin's own vision, that's kind of the hand you have right now. And so I would hate it. I would not be in favor of it even in the slightest, unless it was for a player of like Tage Thompson's caliber as part of a bigger package. But it's cutting off your nose to spite your face. That's the exact way to boil it down. It is like cutting your thumb off and trying to put it on the other hand. It just makes zero sense, but because of decisions you have made yourself, it's one of few options that they have. But don't worry, if it does happen, we'll be ready to respond in kind. It's weird how Billy G was touted as a no BS guy, and yet is no better than Fletcher in terms of locking in his vision. And see, this is where I think the ownership comes in. Because if your ultimate goal is to just make the playoffs, like to be happy by just making the playoffs, that's why you do things like this. That's why you lock in a core, because you can't afford the time it takes to allow prospects to develop properly. You can't afford a letdown year. You can't afford a slip-up year. All these other teams that have gotten themselves into playoff contention this year, or Stanley Cup final winners, with the exception of the Vegas Golden Knights, but the Vegas Golden Knights, I think, share a common theme with these other teams in that they have been very aggressive in building what they're trying to build. They've been very aggressive in going out and getting it. So you have, we talked about the Dallas Stars. They're a really good example of hitting home runs in the draft and supplanting those draft hits with free agency and trades. But they also were willing to give those guys full shakes in the lineup and opportunities to grow and develop. Like, that's the other piece of this too, is if you're going to draft, you got to develop. Those two go hand in hand. If you're going to draft and you're going to build your team through the draft, you have to properly develop those guys. You have to give them requisite opportunities, which is why the Adam Beckman stuff has gotten really frustrating, because we have on one side people saying, well, he's not a legitimate NHL guy. He may not be, but you can't say that we have seen enough to know, because he's been basically a plug and play fourth line guy. And he has not had the opportunity to really showcase what he brings to the table because of the types of players that he is spending a majority of his time with. No surprise that him and Marat developed some immediate chemistry, because Kuznetsov is a playmaker. Beckman is a shooter. Those sorts of things are like magnets. They gravitate to each other, because if you're a playmaker and you've got somebody with you on your line that can shoot, you can get them the puck a million different ways. And a lot of the time it's going to end in a shot on goal. So the fact that there is a large contingent of people saying it's worthless to try to give a guy like Adam Beckman playing time because he just does not bring to the table what proven vets like Freddie Gaudreau and Marcus Johansson do, it's patently false. Like, you are selling somebody short because they can't play the role that you have available because they're not that type of player. I hope that makes sense, because it's like you have to you have to see if a guy is capable of playing a role. Like, is that so crazy? Seeing if a guy is capable of playing a role. If he's not, okay, fine. Then it didn't work out. But to just assume that these guys can't cut it because they don't work as fourth line grinders is just, honestly, it's absurd. Like, it's crazy to me that you just continue to throw. It would be like if you had a dartboard, but instead of trying to hit like 17, 18, 19, 20 to win, you're told that you can only hit 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Those are the only numbers that you can throw at. But your opponent does not have the same stipulations. And so you continue to lose games, and you look over at your coach and you're like, what are we doing here? Like, I can't win this way. And they're like, well, that's the way it should be. Like, that's the way that you're supposed to do it. It's like, no, it's not. They're not doing it that way. Like, I didn't think I was going to use a dart analogy today, but I'm glad everybody is in consensus as to what has been just a huge frustration this season. And look, this was a Chuck Fletcher special too. Chuck Fletcher drafted guys with the assumption that they would be able to play third or fourth line roles, as opposed to simply taking guys that you expect can play higher in the lineup. I mean, to Judd Brackett's credit, with the exception of the Charlie Stramel pick, which again, I'm really, really, really trying to avoid, and I still fall into this same hole. I'm really trying to avoid labeling that pick a bust until we get a chance to see it play out. But the Wild have drafted guys over the last couple of years that we hope can profile into top 6 players. So at least they've avoided some of what Chuck Fletcher was notorious for. And to Bill Guerin's credit as well, he has not been as willing to trade first-round picks as Chuck Fletcher was. He hasn't had the Martin Hanzal trade yet. Maybe that comes next year. I hope not. But he hasn't, to this point, been very willing to trade, with the exception of the Marc-Andre Fleury pick, which was a second round. That trade was a second round pick, if I recall correctly. With the exception of that pick, he really has not traded top round picks so far in his tenure. That was something that Chuck Fletcher was almost a guarantee to do, or to just draft somebody to fit a particular role. It's amazing how, as polar different as their styles can be, we seem to have found our way into the same spots. Okay, who do we think scores the first goal here today? But not before this, though. And it's funny because Chicago people would say Bedard wins that fight hands down. How many 5-point games has Brock Faber had? I've seen that way too many times. Faber would dust him. Brock Faber would dust Connor Bedard in a fight. Not even close. It would be 3 swings. That would be it. Because Bedard doesn't have an ounce of that type of stuff in his game. How many of our players could make the Dallas roster? I mean, Kirill would probably be a 4th line guy for them, or probably the 13th forward. No, it'd be It'd be Kirill, it'd be Boldy, Eriksson Ek. Not Goudreau. You know the funny part too is somebody asked me this. I was at Tom Reed's after the Wild game last night. Somebody asked me this. Is they're talking about Sam Steele. I'd rather have Sam Steele right now than both Freddie Goudreau and Marcus Johansson. Because Sam Steele has never tried to be something that he wasn't. Like, he was miscast as a 1C for like a 20-game stretch, but he's always been a decent to good bottom six guy when cast in that role. Oh, good. Even strength ozone possession time. The Wild had double. Yeah, what? Chicago won 15 of 19 faceoffs in the first period. Yikes. See, this would be fun. This would be a lot of fun. Trevor Zegras, and it seems like he just needs to get out of Anaheim. But I don't know. Like, he would be a legitimate top six guy. Ooh, penalty coming up. Chicago is going on the penalty kill. Jake Middleton just took a trip up the flagpole. And so the Wild will get a power play here. What team is Freddie suitable for? San Jose, Ottawa, Chicago? Yeah, probably that type of list. He ideally, like, if we're being honest here, Freddie's probably a fourth line guy. And so any attempt to put him anywhere other than that is kind of a disservice to him. I've kind of backed off on the, like, if you compare the two, if you compare Goudreau and Johansson, I think you have two different sides of the coin. Goudreau tries, but does not have a ton of skills to offer. And looks like the Wild just scored. Is this Boldy here? Nope. Somebody did. Kaprizov. There's 40. 40 goals for Kaprizov. $40 goals for Kirill the Thrill. Guess who didn't help with that goal? Marcus Johansson. Marcus Johansson did not help with that goal. Hoptics, he's been on another planet completely. Like, let me just see where he's at since the oh boy, I'm gonna have to do this probably offer. I'm gonna have to probably do I'll just do this. I don't want to mess up my score bug here. Which can I get quick input from the chat? Do we like this score bug better? like for live streams? Is this a better, easier to read scorebug than what I did the first time where it was on the bottom of the screen? I was going to look at this. All right, consensus, yes. Looks good, looks clean, looks better. All right, good deal. All right, Kaprizov stats. Oh, come on, internet, don't fail me now. I know I have a lot going on, but you got to work. Kaprizov has 321 points in 273 games. He's already in the top 10 in literally every category as a Minnesota Wild forward. Okay, by game. So the first 30 games of the season, let's just go to January 1st. Kirill is 10th in points since January 1st. But if we just keep kind of reining it in, February 1st to now, maybe we'll get there. Kaprizov is 7th in the NHL since February 1st. He's got 20 goals, 21 assists in 27 games. It's beyond a heater at this point. Kaprizov doing his thing like this also should validate that anything he needs should be number one to this franchise, no question. Question is bringing in other superstars. And this is I think why the team is hoping that the likes of Yurov and such pan out, because if you can, let's look at this. Let's say Matt Boldy takes a step next season and he becomes a clear number two guy, because Joel Eriksson Ek is your number two guy right now in the scoring department. If Matt Boldy takes a step and he can be like your bona fide number two guy, gets a little bit more consistent in his approach, and maybe works on finishing a little better, all of a sudden then you've got yourself a bona fide number two, and then you've got Joel Eriksson Ek, who is 30 goal capable. But then it feels like you need one more guy who can really anchor and take hold of that second line. And then you just push everybody down in the lineup where they should be playing. And it feels like a lot of stuff offensively kind of sorts itself out. And he's Kaprizov is very much keeping an eye on this. He'd be foolish not to. And here's the thing too. Let's keep this in mind. So whatever Kaprizov's number is for his extension, you have, if they can keep this up, you've got Joel Eriksson Ek locked in at 5.2, 5.3, and Matt Boldy locked in at 7. If they take a step, if Eriksson Ek continues his progression and Boldy takes a step, all of a sudden, those are two very capable follow the leader types, with Kaprizov manning the charge. And we've seen it since it's been deployed. It is a bona fide number one line. It's a bona fide number one line in the NHL. But you need a few more. You need a few more guys that can provide some scoring upside on that second line, because holy Mary, Mother of Joseph, if I have to watch Marcus Johansson play a single game on the second line next year, I'm going to cheese grate my eyeballs on a stream. I'll do it right here in front of everybody. If I have to watch that even one time next season, because you are tying your feet together and trying to run a 40-yard dash. You got to have two legs to be able to run that thing. You can't rely on one. Getting a lot of analogies in here. Really should do a bingo card. Maybe I will. Maybe that'll be an off-season thing, is to get a bingo card put together for games. Jesper is low-key pretty good with the stick too. Like that pass that he just had up to Dakota Mermis. That was pretty nice. Also, I guess I didn't realize until right this second that Mermis was even playing. Good work by me to keep track of that. Oh, he's in with Chisholm? Oh, I suppose. Bogosian back in, so he slots in with Brodin, and so then your third pairing is Mermis and Chisholm. That I like. That I would not mind seeing for the rest of the season, because holy -3 Batman in yesterday's game. And again, what is Goudreau doing there? He just tried to thread the needle between two Chicago players, and guess what? The pass was errant, and it hit the Chicago player in the skate. They pass when they shouldn't, and they shoot when they should pass. Oh, this has been this is just good work by Jesper on the good work by Jesper on that backhands. But the fact that Chicago has one shot so far in 8 minutes here in the second period is exactly why they are where they are. Like, this is mostly hideous. Well, that's going to make all of us, Ron, because unless there's some sort of big shakeup in the offseason, they'll be back. We're going to get a real good idea as to how the offseason is going to play out at that end of the year press conference. Because if you hear talk about the injuries just derailing the season, then the assumption is that this group, fully healthy, is capable of competing with the best of them. They're capable of keeping the games closer, but there are holes on this roster. I do, Quadrum, because I've actually seen this a bunch on Twitter here lately. People wondering why the media has not held Bill Guerin accountable for like asking him the right questions for what has happened to this team. The media has 100% asked the appropriate questions. Just they have not received the appropriate answers. I know because I've talked to them that the likes of Jesse Pierce, Judd Zolgad, I've seen it from Russo and from Joe Smith. Like, they ask the right questions. It's Bill Guerin who continues to respond in the same way. He continues to say that he believes in this roster, that he has no regrets on these extensions. And so at a certain point, if you ask a guy a question and that's the only response you get, like, they keep asking, but that's the only response that we get is, I believe in this team. We have to be better. I have no regrets on these extensions. Like, Dan Barrero's asked him the same question in every appearance that he's had on KFan. And that's been the response every time. So, like, the appropriate questions are being asked. The answers are not coming. Like, that's the issue. Ooh. Nice block by Chicago's goalie on that Kaprizov shot. That was nifty. Chicago still stuck on 2 shots this entire period, and we're 9 minutes in. How is this still a how is this still a 1-0 game? Trav, this is a great call. I notice this a lot. Is he, when pressed, he gets flustered. Like that, and it was so funny because he started reacting after last season. He started reacting before Russo even asked the question. Like, that tells me somebody who knows it's coming and is trying his best to not, like, fully melt down. That's not great either. And look, like, I use John Tortorella as an example a lot because I think he'd be a fantastic fit here. For what this roster is. He had the other night where he threw kind of a temper tantrum and got flustered by a line of questioning and walked off the podium without saying a word. But then, you know what he did after the fact? The next night is I think the next night, one of the assistant coaches did the interview. And then the following, oh boy, ref just got hit in the face by it is open season on the refs here in Chicago today. Dude took one right off the beak on a backhand attempt along the boards. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Tortorella then, after walking off the podium without saying a word, he, like, a few nights later, he was like, he went back and he made good on it. We're not dumb. Fans are not dumb. People that watch this team in any capacity are not dumb. We see what's going on. It's very easy to tell. And so to sit here and kind of, like, the Leslie Nielsen gif from The Naked Gun, where he is in front of that fireworks building that's exploding, and he's like, nothing to see here. Please disperse. We can see what's going on. Like, I just would love a touch of realism, honesty, access to what is going on behind the scenes, and just a sense that the front office and all the way up to the top of the ladder like knows what's going on. But we don't get any of that. We just get the same things like got to be better, got to be more physical, got to be healthier, got to just really give everything we've got to try to make it to the playoffs next season. Well, like, okay. We like just again, I go back to the New York Rangers sending out that letter to their fans saying, we know we need to play at a higher standard. And in order to get there, it's going to take some dirty work. So we're asking you to please bear with us through this process. Didn't bat an eye. And the New York Rangers right now are the number one team in, I think it's the NHL in points. Let me just check. New York Rangers, 108 points. Yes, the New York Rangers now have the most points in the NHL. Now, have they won the Stanley Cup since? No. But are they in better position to win the Stanley Cup? You better believe it. It's just some level of the transparency is 100% the word here. Great call, Dougie. 100% the word. Just some transparency into the process. We're just not mindless rabble that just purchases tickets and just sits and eats popcorn. Like, we watch the games, we cheer for the team, we cheer for the players to do well. Bally Sports is doing a worst plus minus of all time graphic on the broadcast as a dig attempt at Connor Bedard. Is there bad blood between Russo and BG? Seems like Russo isn't a big fan of his personality. No. See, this is interesting because if you would ask me if you would have asked me about Russo and Fenton, probably, because those two notoriously did not get along. Bill Guerin, I know some of the public appearances are it gets tense, but no, there's no bad blood between those two. I'd be pretty confident in saying that. Minnesota fans are probably the most hockey literate in the league. Accurate. When I first took over, this show, I learned very quickly, you cannot BS hockey fans, because I came into this with zero hockey background and had to learn very quickly. You can't BS people. We can't BS people, especially in this state that follow this team and this sport as closely as you all do. It is absolutely accurate. 2020. Do we know? I'm going to look right now. Do we know if the 2026 draft class is a particularly big one? I mean, obviously it's 2 years out, so it's hard to. I wonder if they even will have. Oh, who is this time? We got another wild goal. Oh, Marco Rossi. No. I'll take that. I'll take that every day of the week and on Sundays. Good pass by Kaprizov and a good feed by Zuccarello to Rossi from the slot, and he just lets it fly. Oh, from the face-off circle, excuse me. Just lets it fly. Yeah, he was ready to shoot. Love that. Love that. It would be insanely foolish to trade a guy who now has 21 goals in the season and is, if you want me to go, oh God, what does Elite Prospects have to say about the 2026 NHL draft? Not a lot. It's too like I'm hoping or assuming that it is a good class because that was done. All those picks were accumulated for a reason. Yeah, it would not be a surprise if they just said like, well, and let's keep this in mind too. That is the year that we can stop talking about maximum cap hits for Parise and Suter. And so it makes sense that the Wild are going to try to load up in a bunch of different ways. And so they're either going to draft a ton of players or they're going to use some of those prospects to add to the pie. Jake Lucchini, please just clear the puck out of the zone. Please. Where's Marco Rossi at in terms of goals this season? Amongst the team, he is fourth on the team in goals this season with 21. Kaprizov has 40. Eriksson Ek has 30. Matt Boldy has 26. Rossi now with 21. Hartman has 19, and the next closest after that is Zuccarello with 11. Then Johansson and Foligno with 10. That made me ill. That made me ill reading that list. Yeah, I'm nauseous now. All right, so it's 2-0 at this point. It should be like 10-0. Chicago has 12 shots on goal through 2 periods. I think Bedard is going to wear a bubble for the rest of the season. Because you don't want to re-break that jaw. Soft backhand pass from the top of the zone by Bedard. Just a soft play. Nearly had it poked away. Oh, Boldy did reach in and poke the puck free. Nice play, Bolds. Are we going to get a penalty here? No, something else. Another thought. Did they bring Hoosie over this season to showcase him? God, I hope not. It feels like how long have we been just begging for center depth? And I'm not talking about guys that can play center. I'm talking about centers. And now we finally have Eriksson Ek, Rossi, and Kuznetsov to trade 2 of them and just say, oh, yeah, we'll just go to Hartman and we'll go to Gaudreau to fill those spots next year would just be, it'd be pretty deflating, honestly. So I hope the Wild are legitimately penciling him into the future plans, but I guess we will never know. Well, we'll know when something is done, that something being a trade. I think it's time for more salsa. Yeah, it really gets unsettling, Dougie. Like, what could possibly be in the works behind the scenes? Because what do we know about the fearless leader? When he is set on doing something, he does not wait at all. And so if he would find an appealing trade offer or something that really worked for him, he's just going to do it. Like, he's just going to pull the trigger, not going to care about what any person other than Craig Leopold says. And he's just going to do it. Good work in front of Jesper by Faber, by I mainly just saw Faber, but good work in front of Jesper on that little latest traffic chaos in front of the net. There's another shot on goal. That was Boldy that time. I believe Height is let's just see here. I believe he is a center right now. I think. Cap Friendly lists him as center, left wing, and right wing. I think he's playing center right now, Trav, but I think they are like, there is potential for him to be kind of a multi-purpose type player. I'd rather he hit as a center, but honestly, some of these guys are like, you've got Height, you've got, I mean, how many of these guys in the system right now? Hunter Height, Caden Bankier, Rasmus Kumpelainen is a center. Why did that go there? Riley Height is a center. Like, they got a bunch of guys. This Dmitriev Shinnikov plays center. They got a bunch of guys in the system that can play center. And so you're either going to trade some of those guys, or you're going to slot them into different spots. Some of these guys will play wing, but some of them definitely will stick at center. Kaprizov is shifting now with Kuznetsov and Hartman, and I'm having chest palpitations. Like, I get it, must-win game, but yeah, and this is funny too. This just speaks so much to how bad Gaudreau and Johansson have been, that you're basically just double shifting Kirill at will just to try to get functional line combos out there. So what this tells me is that Hines, this speaks even further to Freddie scored it. What was it? Deflected? It had to have been deflected. So it's a shot from Bogosian. Oh yeah, Freddie tucked that in. He deflected that in top corner. So right as I was right as I was ripping those two. So I can't say another bad word about Freddie Gaudreau the rest of the season. He's terrific. He really has done a great job all season. He's been one of the better forwards for the Wilds pretty much all season. Honestly, if you put his numbers together with Kirill Kaprizov and you even out their points, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Like, he just has been that good. He's been that solid. He should be locked in as the number one winger next season opposite Kirill Kaprizov. And then if you could just get Johansson some time at center, you got yourself an unstoppable top line that is just ready to terrorize the NHL for years to come. And the sad part is that there will be people out there that'll say that. Congrats. He deflected one in past a not great goalie. Whoop-de-doo. No, but that's good. Honestly, though, like, on the human side, good for Freddie. He's had a miserable season. And so good for him getting a goal. But, like, you gotta use that. Now, what you need to do, you need to take that and use that to build into next season so that he can be playing good enough to warrant a return at the trade deadline next year. That should be the goal for both Marcus Johansson and Freddie Gaudreau, is play good enough to get traded at the deadline. End of story. All right. 3-0 after 2. Jesper is 15 out of 15. Wild have done, albeit against a far inferior opponent, the Wild have done a really good job of cleaning things up in front of Jesper. That we like to see. Kaprizov, Rossi, Gaudreau, that we like to see. You should be throttling Chicago, and 3-0 now after 2. 3-0 reflects that. Chicago really hasn't had anything that I would consider a grade A chance. This just continues to further the... Oh, boy. The Discord server has found the stream. This is why I need 2 people. One to do one and one to take care of the other. I feel like this is about the time Russo would remind us how good the Wild are at blowing third period leads. I mean, he's not wrong, but do you think Gord gets tired of the narrative still in it narrative? Because of the entire crew, he's the one that at least has his feet on the ground of that entire broadcast crew. Now, Is it just the toes or is it the full feet that are on the ground at this point in the season? Hard to say. I got to get him back on. We will. Now I'm getting caught up on Discord. Who do we think scores first in the third? Who do we think gets this to 4-0, or do we think this game gets to 4-0? One second, John. I will drop the link. My prediction for 7-0 is probably not going to happen today, but I was out for Bedard blood. Would we call that? No. Never mind. Delete. Oh, are we really? Are we real? I mean, yeah, I would very, very much love a goalie goal. Very much love a goalie goal today. Can we manifest a goalie goal? I think we can. I think we will. What was I going to say? So there are rumblings on the old Twitter machine that people like the Rossi, Kaprizov, Zuccarello line more than Kaprizov, Boldy, Eriksson Ek. I mean, it's like Rossi, Zuccarello, Kaprizov has been great, but Boldy, Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov was next level. Like top of the food chain level. I would like to go back to that and simply find literally any other player to be the wing for Zuccarello and Rossi. Literally any other player other than Marcus Giocardio. Here's a stat from Brett Marshall. Since returning from injury on January 13th, Kirill Kaprizov has played in 36 games and has scored 27 goals and added 27 assists. The 27 goals are second most in the NHL behind one Austin Matthews, who has 31. More than the next two Wild players combined. Eriksson Ek has 15. Boldy has 11. It also has accounted for 24% of Minnesota Wild goals in that span. He has also factored into 48.2% of the Minnesota Wild goals in this 36-game stretch. He scored 42 of his 54 points are either a goal or the primary assist. He's 8th in the NHL in shots with 139. 4th in the NHL in individual expected goals with 19.98. For the math people, this means that Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Boldy have scored 53 of 113, which is 47% of the Wild's goals since January 13th. When you consider they were playing on the same line for a majority of that time, it's a bit alarming that 15-plus players only managed to score 60 times. It's also crazy how last year he only got hurt once, and this year he was hurt at the start, plus got hurt again, yet he has already tied goals from last year. I think he has, let me see here. I think he has equaled. So he has exceeded last year's games by 2. And last year he had 40 goals, 35 assists. He has 40 goals, and I'm assuming he assisted on the Rossi goal. So he's got 89 points right now. Let me just see. Yep. So he's got 2 points today. So he now has 40 goals, 48 assists. He's got 88 points, which exceeds last year, second most he's ever had. And the thing that's crazy too is like that first stretch of probably 20 games to start the season was him just trying to get himself back in game shape, like dealing with that injury, which he, I think, was still dealing with when the season started, which was confirmed by our beloved former head coach, Dean Evison. But not only was he trying to heal from that injury, he was also trying to work himself back into game shape, which is a bad combo. He spent the whole offseason trying to rehab that injury as opposed to trying to add like strength and muscle and everything. So you throw out that first 20 games of the season. If you extrapolate what he has done this season over a full 82 game stretch, even this last bit, he's on just an insane pace. Further emphasizing the point that this Wild team needs a lot more players that can help. Like 3 guys scoring almost 50% of your goals is not great. Imagine if Kaprizov had a Kaprizov to play with. If you could roll Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello, and Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Boldy, this Wild team would not have lost a game this year. I promise you that. Even with like you could have your bottom 6 be exclusively Gaudreau and Johansson, you'd still be beating people. All right, are we done with intermission yet? Has the broadcast done a push to the playoffs type scenario yet? Have we gotten to that point with, all right, here's what we need. Here's what we need to have happen. Like, we're way past that point. folks. I mean, theoretically, yes. Quadrum, he could theoretically be more attainable, but you're still going to have to part with a ready young player and probably a pick and a prospect, I think, at minimum, in order to get him. So I would like just a little level of insurance that he is, I'd like to kind of watch him play the rest of the season and see what he does, just so that we're sure that the health is not going to be a problem, because it's a massive investment to make for a player like that. And I'm going to be honest too, like, it's weird, but like, he's obviously a very good player, but I think if people just started listing off players to go get, if it's not an immediate yes, like, I wouldn't be upset if they went and got him, but he just, I don't know why I'm not an immediate yes on that. Zegras is an offensive player. Like, he doesn't offer you much other than offense. He doesn't play defense a ton. What are his numbers this season? Where did he go? Oh, 26 games this season. He's got 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 total points. But what does he look like since he came back? So he has 2 points. He has 2 points in the 6 games that he's played since he returned. And that was he was out from January 9th to March 26th. But in the span between October 14th and January 9th, he had 4 goals and 3 assists in that span. Now, obviously, you look at what he has done previous in his career. He had 23 goals last year, 42 assists. He had 23 goals the year before that. So he's good offensively. Like, I'm not going to question that. It's just he doesn't bring you a ton. He plays on the power play, but he doesn't bring you really much defensively, like, at all. Are we just writing off Foligno like he isn't going to be part of the team anymore? Gary, we got to no, but Foligno has missed large chunks of time through pretty much every season that he's played recently. Like, he misses chunks of games. And the last 2 seasons, he has been shut down for the same injury 2 seasons in a row. So he finishes this season playing 55 games. He played 65 last year. He played 74 the year before that. Like, he's good when he's on. But the problem is that there are stretches of time in which he is not on the ice because of how he plays. And at some point, it's going to catch up with him. And like, that's the issue that people have. Like, when he plays, he's productive. He's physical. He upped pretty much all of his offensive numbers from last year to this year, but he played in 10 fewer games. So, like, you got to be on the ice to be a contributor to the team. And so the fact that when he is on the ice, he's a good fit, but you got to be on the ice. A large reason that the team lost a bunch of games is because he wasn't out there. Who did we trade Charlie Coyle for? It was Donato and was it the pick that turned into Addison? Oh no, that's way too. That was looking at acquiring him. So it was Ryan Donato and a 5th round pick. And if I recall correctly, the pick that 5th round pick ended up being Kalen Addison. So that was a trade at the end of the line by Chuck Fletcher once he realized that his core was not going to be able to get it done. He's been great with Boston ever since he went there. I wouldn't say no to having him back, but there has to be there just has to be a willingness by Bill Guerin to go get a player of that caliber or reacquire him. He's making $5.25 million until the end of the 2025-2026 season, so you'd have 2 years remaining on his deal, and he's got 25 goals this season. I'm being told that Addison was part of the Zucker trade. That's entirely possible. Actually, yeah, I think I was wrong. It was the Zucker trade. So career high in goals for Charlie Coyle this year with 25. He's got 58 points. He's got 24 goals in 106 playoff games. I mean, if it would be something Bill Guerin looked into, I wouldn't be upset. But again, like all of these move suggestions center around Bill Guerin having to like clean up his mess. And until he's willing to do that, that's just where we're at this point. Murat with the dangle sauce behind the net. Goudreau with a shot on goal. He clearly was listening to the stream during the second intermission. We were talking about Charlie Coyle, Diane. Whether or not he would be worth looking into as a potential reacquisition And just simply trying to, I had in my head for some reason that Addison was part of that trade, but it was actually Zucker. That was the trade there. Who is the backup today? That is a good question. I want to say it's Fleury. Is it though? Oh, good. Kaprizov got stung. Did he get hit by a shot? Yeah, that would appear to be what happens. Great. Good, great, grand, wonderful. Yeah, whichever was the goalie non-dressed would be a scratch at that point, or the emergency backup. However that works. You can have two goalies dress. So whether it be Fleury or Gustafson, just one of them is just a scratch here for tonight. I did not see who actually was, but let me see here. See what Joe Smith has to say. He does not know. That's interesting. That is interesting as to who the backup is. Chicago sitting at 18 shots on goal through. Yeah, no, it's not. It's there's really no negative connotation to it. It's just the third goalie. The team's going to carry 3 for the rest of the season. So it's just get a night off is I think how I look at that. Bally Sports North, Liam. I am not able to show the broadcast due to NHL rules, YouTube rules. If I show even a highlight of what's going on, this channel will cease to exist because it'll get copyright struck, and the NHL will fight honestly harder than they do for most anything that has to do with the actual on ice product. But if I show even a highlight of what's going on, it's curtains for Locked On Wild on YouTube. Unfortunately, got to have a subscription. You may be able to do the 7-day free trial, but I would save that for the rest of the road trip because Chicago's a mess. Like, this should be 6 or 7-0 at this point. And Chicago just is really playing out the string. Oh, Kaprizov got elbowed by the other Foligno. So I'm sure that felt great. Honestly, that's probably a safe bet. Unless Chicago pulls their goalie, I think if the Wild do anything like they've done pretty much all season, they are satisfied with this result. And unless Chicago really pushes, 3-0 is probably safe at this point. Like, the damage is done. Chicago's not going to win this game. And Chicago's not trying to win games at this point in the season. Oh, that reminds me. Where's the Tankathon at? So the Wild are up to 13, but soon to be like 14 with their win here today. Yeah, this is a great call, Tyler. He has had a lot of different highlights that have shown off that personality. Like when he danced to Beat It during one of the stoppages, like that kind of is what got my attention. But he had like a full out interview series that the Iowa Wild did, where he interviewed players. Like that was great. And I feel like players that kind of have some of that, have a better chance. It's not a guarantee, but I feel like players that have a little bit more of that swagger and that's competitive confidence, I feel like they have a better chance to hit, better chance to stick. You got to be able to, much to Logan Stanley's detriment, you got to be able to talk the talk and walk the walk. And Stanley can do neither of those. Can't be perfect. We can't be perfect at everything. Yeah, he's gonna be dynamite with Not Weird Wilds when those come back, or when they add to that for next year or whenever thereafter. This game is not going quickly enough. Yeah, no, Liam, you're right on. Chicago is perfectly happy with this result. Like, they don't want to win this game. Current Tankathon has them in the 2 spot, 3 points ahead of the Anaheim Ducks. So they're not looking at any point to win this game. So there's not going to be any sort of fight back. It's more of a concession of like, we're really bad, and we're okay with that because we're going to get a top draft pick. And yeah, the angry Chicago fan discourse is something else, but it really shows you. Ooh, Seattle won it this time. So Wild have a 2% chance of moving up. Let's try to get one of those scenarios to take place. Oh, here they moved down. Gross. All right. So it took me 10 spins. The Wild moved down twice, and I got them to move up to number 3. One of them. That would be wonderful. Get one of those big old defensemen. Oh, looks like the Wilds have added to their total. Sorry, Liam. Who scored it, I wonder? We'll find out here in a second. Faber leading a rush. Oh, my God. That was gross. That was left on a string by Brock Faber for Kirill Kaprizov. That was gross. Great play by Faber up to the left side. But he just leaves it on a string. That's disgusting. There's your play of the game. There's your greater good play of the game. Is that Faber pass to Kirill Kaprizov? That is saucy. Don't clip that audio. Do not clip that audio. It's not me saying tramped. It's poor Chicago. No, we don't say poor Chicago. They've had plenty of good seasons. They can afford to have a few bad ones. I think Quadrum in terms of assists. Let me just see here. I think Faber may have the lead. Well, let me just pull it up. Faber is now 1 assist. Does he have 2 points today? Just 1. He's 1 assist behind Bedard. And unfortunately, Luke Hughes has decided to start playing. So he now has 44 points on the season. But Luke Hughes is a minus 23 on the season. Like, get that ick out of here. Swedish hockey. I'm trying to get more into the overseas stuff, obviously to keep an eye on the likes of Ugrin and such. But as of right now, my experience with watching is not a ton, but I'm hoping to add that to the watch arsenal as the offseason rolls along into next year. Yeah, that's a great question by Amanda. Where is everybody tuning in to our watch party from today? Just drop it in the comments and I'll give everybody a shout out. Diane joining us from Florida. Love to see it. Minneapolis, Northwest Iowa. Sibley, Iowa, to be exact. All the way from Anchorage. Mike's got things on lock. Richfield, Cleveland, Georgia. All the way, Liam joining us from Sweden. Love to see it. Love to see the across the pond exposure for Locked On Wild. Gary joining us from Anoka today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Diane, though, is in Minnesota, just visiting Florida for today. Dougie joining us from Waseca. Nick joining us from Ortonville today. We got a good crew. Got a good crew in the chat today. Love that. And we're just 8:40 away from a milestone. 8 minutes and 40 seconds away from a milestone. I'm not going to say any further into it because I don't want to jinx it. Andover, Bill from Andover joining us. Yeah, Mike, I think those Sweden streams were probably around there, around that 15 to 20 mark. But you know, it's the fact that the fact that they were weekend games in the morning, I think, is tough. But you know, the fact that the audience is way bigger now than it was then certainly helps as well. It is currently 4:49 here in the old US of A, Liam, and you know, we're having a good time here. Ron repping us from the home of Hockey Day, Minnesota in 2026. Hastings, Minnesota. All cheers to that. Yeah, both teams just kind of playing it out at this point. Chicago's been doing this for months. Basically, Chicago's been doing this for the whole season. That must be a lot of fun. Liam is burning the late oil in Sweden. But we appreciate having you with us. Kaprizov looking for somebody to go to here. Goes to Rossi on the far side. Rossi works it back to Kaprizov. Boldy trying to get positioning. So interesting. Okay, this is another interesting line wrinkle being thrown out by John Hines, and it's not a power play. We got Kaprizov, Rossi, Boldy back out on the ice. Here at this point in the game, Chicago's going to get called for an icing. .658 left. Turnover to the top. Chizzy goes to Rossi, knocked down from behind. That was Shaw. It was not Rossi. Hey, Tage Thompson scored today, by the way. He's got 29 goals. Why do I put myself in position to hope for these things that are impossible to happen? I did it with Elias Pettersson. I got to stop just even giving these types of things the time of day. Sup, Nathan? I'm not. I'll talk about this in an episode coming up this week. I'm my burner level for Kaprizov not re-signing here is, at this point, I haven't turned it on yet. Scale of 1 to 10, like my concern level for Kaprizov not signing at this current moment is like a 1.5. I honestly, and maybe I'm being too naive about this, I don't think re-signing him is going to be the problem. I think getting him to stay for the duration of his extension will be the issue. You got to make sure that you are full speed ahead from the moment he signs on the dotted line. You got to make sure you are full steam ahead, and that that you are in full chase of a Stanley Cup from the moment he signs. Otherwise, you're going to get 2 or 3 years into that thing, and he's going to say, I'm good. I'd like to go somewhere else. And then you have, at that point, lost all of the leverage. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I'll talk more about that for an upcoming episode here. Johansson passing to Boldy in triple coverage. That's fun. Kirill flew Foligno out to New York City for authentic Russian food. Tells me all I need to know about Kirill's plans. It's very possible. Again, I could be reading this situation completely wrong, but I just like what they're going to be able to offer him as like you get the keys to the city, basically. They're going to overpay probably, but I don't know. Well, as much as has gone wrong, that is something that just is not like a concern at this point. It probably should be, but it's not something that I am concerned about at this point. We've been trying to get this going for a long time. And yet Johansson just continues to play. Just continues to get those minutes. Connor Bedard, by the way, as was just pointed out to me, Connor Bedard so far, he has 3 shot attempts, 2 hits, and a giveaway through 17 minutes, 21 seconds of ice time. I mean, this would be the hope. This would be the hope, is that his trade value reaches new peaks so that when Bill Guerin calls teams desperately begging them to take Johansson off his hands, or Gaudreau, I should say, they say, well, he had 13 points on the season. Bill Guerin can say, yeah, but he had 1 goal in the final 6 games. 1 goal out of every 6 games is like 20 goals on the season. This is probably a good time for me to announce some breaking news on the stream. I have been working tirelessly. This is why I just appear so tired all the time, is because I have been working tirelessly with Lake Minnetonka to construct Kirill Kaprizov premium property. And not only a portion of Lake Minnetonka, but he is going to own the entirety of Lake Minnetonka. Like I just have to get him to sign it, and then it's a done deal. Like, he is just going to own the entirety of, and is going to just live on a yacht, just live on a Russian yacht in the middle of Lake Minnetonka. It's basically a done deal. Just have to get him to sign it. And then that part will be taken care of. Jojo and Freddie will be working at Lifetime Fitness in the off season. I wouldn't want either of them training me. Like, cardio nonstop. Cardio is not my jam. It's just not how I operate. 1 minute and 37 seconds away. Honestly, just play keep away at this point. Not like they haven't been doing that for the entirety of the third period, but all right, who's out there on the ice right now? Who's Nadinov? Goudreau. 35 seconds. Shot sails past. 20 seconds left. Jesper taps it to Bogosian. Worked back behind the net for Brodin. Along the boards. Yeah, Wild basically just playing keep away at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially a final. Jesper Wallstedt picks up his first NHL win, his first NHL shutout against barely an NHL team. No, but seriously, it's a good win for Jesper. That's a good confidence booster. He looked like, here's the other thing about this, and we'll talk more about this in the postcast, but he looked better today. So that's the encouraging thing to take away from this game. It doesn't matter that Chicago is just hideously bad. Jesper looked better today. He looked the part. And so congrats to Jesper on the shutout. That is a fun, purify yourself in the waters of Lake. Congrats to Jesper Wallstedt. That was fun. It's fun. And his teammates are mobbing him right now. That's fun. This is the part of the season. This is what we look for at this point. Greater good does not get any better than a Jesper shutout here at this point in the season. All right, I'm going to get everything ready for postcast. So appreciate everybody hopping in here for the stream. We'll talk about Jesper's game. We'll talk about Kirill Kaprizov. We'll talk about Marco Rossi, Murat Huznadinov. We'll recap this one for you. A 4-2-0 win for the Minnesota Wilds. We'll break all the action down on tonight's Locked On Wild postcast, so make sure to subscribe if you have not already. And we'll see you in a little bit on tonight's Locked On Wild postcast, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network.